Thank you for coming. We have a lot of new members, so we are going to start by introducing the new members. So, Rob.
Okay. My name is Rob Levine. I'm the membership guy. If we'll do it by table, not prospective members, new members, guys who paid, please stand up. At this table, anybody new at this table? At this table, do we have anyone new? Not prospective. I'm new. Don't sit there, okay? The Jets. Anyone new at this table?
Oh, is that what they say they did?
Do we have anyone new in this room? I know that we do. You're a perspective. You're on deck. We have no one that wants to claim that you're part of our organization. I don't like a Groucho Marx kind of. Okay, we have one. You're, go ahead. This is Arthur.
Arthur, Halloween Day. I moved to New Jersey with my son.
Hold on, guys.
I said I moved to New Jersey with my son several months ago, and I belong to Church in Philadelphia, and I was person in Minnesota back there about 30 years ago.
Psychiatrist. So I can get a lot of work. Any other new member that wants to introduce themselves? You guys have that?
Oh, well, I forgot. I'm going right after.
Hey, we're good to go. Thank you.
That's it.
Oh, if you don't have a shirt, you haven't got a shirt, I have a menu right over there. George, buy size. So when you go over there, you get yourself a shirt. If you don't have a badge and you think you've ordered it again for you. You leave. Just there's a badge, a page inside your badges. Thank you. Yeah. And guys, pay attention to my little brother. He's got a complex already. So please pay attention.
I'll try to make some way. Okay, thank you. Is Mike Staff here? Mike Staff? Sarah Fortney? I mean, those people asked to speak. Okay. All right, Hamotzi? Who wants to do Hamotzi?
Newest member.
Rabbi? No, Rabbi. We have an expert. It's only one guy. Rabbi, would you do the Hamotzi?
As you say the motion, please include a special blessing for the wife. We're in trouble now because our fishing may be in there. Got to start kindergarten tomorrow night. But first, learn from our sponsor. We know this. You did very well.
Okay, breakfast.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Mike Staff. I am the Assistant Director of the Jewish Community Foundation. I see a lot of familiar faces. Rabbi Address, nice to see you. How are you? And looking forward to meeting some new faces. I've met some nice people in the back of the room, so thank you for your hospitality this morning. So the Jewish Community Foundation is a supporting agency of the Jewish Federation of Southern New Jersey. We're located right upstairs in the Federation suite. We work very closely with the Federation, all the agencies, synagogues, day schools, and other agencies throughout the community, Jewish or secular. And our main business is to manage endowment funds, donor advised funds. So we hold money, we invest it professionally, and we cut checks to the community as our donors see fit. So we oversee about $35 million currently, and we've been in the community as part of the Federation for about 4 years, and we look forward to a bright future. And one of the small components I was going to talk about today kind of ties in nicely with tomorrow being Halloween. We oversee a New Testament cemetery where there's about 1,200 Jewish burials as part of a very large cemetery that's owned by the city of Camden. The cemetery itself is located right near Ferry Avenue train station, if you're familiar with that area. As you probably know, the Jewish community was centered in Camden for many years until we moved out here to Cherry Hill. And what happened over the years is Congregation Sons of Israel and other organizations had plots, and eventually they just got out of hand. They couldn't maintain it themselves. So the Federation and JCF, we hold an endowment fund to pay for some of the upkeep, the grass cutting, and so forth. And we also oversee it kind of on a, maybe not day-to-day basis, but just on an ongoing basis, make sure it's taken care of and respected in the way it should be. So, in talking to some members here tonight, actually Phil Garoff, I know he's not here today, but he expressed interest that, maybe there's something that the men's club could do to be involved with the cemetery. So, I'll give you a brief overview that it's about 125 years old. As you can imagine, it takes upkeep with grass growing and shrubs growing and fence repairs and so forth. And we get people calling about, if the stone falls down. Obviously we need professionals to do certain things, but it'd be great to have, maybe hands-on support if you guys have an interest in maybe coming out. Maybe an annual mitzvah day where you help, clean up leaves or, do little small projects, or maybe ongoing basis for, part of my job is to talk to people who, maybe there's concerns about something that's broken and needs to be fixed, and, go out and check it every month or so. So really it's just kind of a very important part of our Jewish history in the community. I believe it's the oldest Jewish cemetery in the southern New Jersey region. So we want to make sure that it's kept up well. And there are still ongoing burials, a few a year, but not many at this point. I think there's about 20 veterans buried there, and I know that the graves get flagged every Memorial Day, which is a very nice thing, and Veterans Day. So it's a kind of a hidden gem, I would say, of the community that maybe people don't know about. Lots of old headstones, many of them in Hebrew and from different segments of the community. So I want to just put this out there. I'm happy to talk and answer any questions you may have, or any thoughts you may have about this cemetery. If you have any history that you're interested in hearing about, you can let me know, because I like to learn more about it as it's something that I do every day. So I appreciate your time. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to talk. And I know it's something that's a little bit offbeat that you might maybe not talk about every day as a cemetery, but I figure it's a good thing to put out there to your group. So thank you very much for having me. I can hand it back if you have any questions otherwise. Thanks, Steve.
All right, so next thing in the program.
Anyway, we have a lot of new members. A lot of people don't realize how much we actually do. So I put together a very short video, PowerPoint. Believe it or not, it's less than 8 minutes. And most of it, you're going to have to make sure you focus, because it goes from one thing to the next. Over 30 of our members are in this, of the things that we've done. Something to keep in mind is that during the entire 2 years of the epidemic and pandemic, when things were closed down, we never missed a meeting. Never missed a meeting. We did it by Zoom. And one of my favorite meetings that we've had was a live tour of Old Jerusalem. And we were able to ask questions to the tour guide. It was extraordinary. And we've had many, many, many different ways that people can volunteer to help to do things. Look, a lot of folks in this room spent their lifetime making money. Now you can make a difference, which is even more rewarding. And you're going to see some of the different ways that you can step up and do things. Now I understand that some people have had a way of doing things where they said, well, for 30 years I ran my business, or I was in my profession, and I was working hard doing things. Now it's time for everybody else. What do you do when everyone in the room can say that? That's why we did this PowerPoint, so you can see the things, not that we did before, a long, long time ago. This is all within the last year. Don Weisenstein had the idea of doing this several years, and it's worked fantastic. Look at all the people we have. This was, a lot of guys brought their spouses.
Look at those legs.
I think today we have close to 60 people. If you've missed some of the meetings in the past, we have online almost 100 videos, a little over 100. This was just a few months ago. Look at all the people that have been helping with the pantry. And that doesn't include the people more than a year ago who helped put together the shelves for the pantry that we helped finance. Okay, change already, let's go.
Hey, you set it up.
There we go. How many people participated in placing flags? Well, let's see. Well done, gentlemen. It was a nice article. It was a half-page article in the Inquirer. Some of the police departments heard about it and joined in.
They wanted to arrest us first. But we convinced them of it.
Not just putting things together, but taking them apart was also a big part. And look at all the folks here. This was just a few weeks ago. Abe Furtis, Bob Greenberg, Dick Knopf, Rob Levin, Joe Magnus, Mike Perlock, Bert Schaefer, 93 years old. If he can do it, you could do these kind of things. Sometimes height matters.
They won't let me fall off the ladders anymore.
Ed was getting up in the world. JCC put that sign up in there with appreciation and thanks to the South Jersey Men's Club for constructing the Silka. First time we did it was actually when the JCC was on Route 70 quite a long time ago.
We actually had an architect help us put the plan together.
One of the largest ever built.
And this was very recently. That's not everybody from the group, because a lot of the wives got tired of waiting because the buses were an hour late. They were inside where it was a little cooler. And Barney Kaplan, Barney, stand at the moment please, real quick. Barney paid for all the buses to get us there. Thank you.
I don't know if the students got it, but you guys did.
Now this we've been doing since the first Gulf War in the 90s. And the feedback we get is incredible. It really makes a difference. If you have any boxes of Hanukkah cards that have been sitting in a drawer for decades, bring them in. Here's some things I got to go through very quickly. We have an investment club, and it's got over $200,000 in it. There's usually 15 to 20 guys that participate. We take advantage of everybody's background for input. Fantasy football, Don Weisenstein, we're in the middle of that now. I'm getting my butt kicked week after week. Jewish athletic group, which many of you know about the softball. But when we were really engaged with it, before others took over, it was like 7 or 8 different activities. This is the law breakfast that we've been doing also since the 90s. Police Chief Associate, that's quite a room. That's across the street. And it's grown to 5 counties. Participation, we always have an honor guard from one of the organizations. Prosecutors are the top law enforcement official in every county, and 5 of them come. And then we make a check of the proceeds. You've noticed one check goes to the Hero Scholarship Fund, the other one goes to the Holocaust Education Center here. Folks, you can make a difference. Volunteer. You've seen at least 30 guides. We're part of the International Federation of Jewish Men's Clubs. We've been around since 1990. And one year we actually got the International Federation of Men's Clubs awarded us Best Club in the organization. All thanks to you. Thank you. Now that we did this, we did show a picture of presenting a check after the law breakfast. And we have people from the Hero Scholarship Fund here today. Want to do it now? Yes, let's do it now. And I'm going to ask you to please come up. We did exceptionally well the last law breakfast, and we're giving $1,000 of the proceeds to the Hero Scholarship Fund. And we're also giving $1,000 next month to the Holocaust Education Center. Thank you. Now, one of them would like to, I forgot your name, sir. Chris would like to say a few words.
No problem. Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Williams. Mike told me I only had a couple minutes, so I'll leave it to a couple minutes. I've been on the executive board for the Camden County Hero Scholarship, approaching 15 years right now. We have members who represent the police, fire department, as well as emergency medical services. Real quick, the first gentleman who spoke about cleaning up the cemetery, just a little side story. There was a Miami Beach police officer who was killed in the line of duty in 1932. They reached out to the head of the Camden Fraternal Order of Police, a good friend of mine, Lou Hannon, and they have a memorial at the Miami Beach Police Department, and they have pictures of all the law enforcement officers who were killed in the line of duty, except for one gentleman, and he was a motorcycle cop in 1932. He died, he was struck by a car, and then they escorted, now remember there was no 95, they escorted him back up to the same cemetery at Mount Ephraim and Ferry Avenue. And they requested a photograph of that particular man's grave to go into the memorial down in Miami Beach. And myself, along with about 8 police officers from Camden Police, not Camden County Metro, which currently serves Camden, we went up there and after an exhaustive search found this grave site overgrown 5-6 feet of tree stumps, but there were actual weeds. And it took us all morning to cut and hack and chainsaw and clean out, and then we went out and got pebble stone and we got American flags and we decorated this man's cemetery plot and took a picture and sent it back down to Miami beach, and they were very appreciative, and but they had no idea what we went through with that particular cemetery. So the idea that the first man who spoke, I didn't get his name, is a great idea. The Camden County Hero Scholarship was started in 1966 by 2 Philadelphia police officers. It mirrors the Philadelphia Hero Scholarship Fund. The idea behind it is if a police officer, firefighter, or emergency medical service worker is killed in the line of duty or critically injured where he cannot perform his duty anymore, the Hero Scholarship, if he's killed in the line of duty, he or she, within 48 hours, representatives from the Hero Scholarship come to the family and present them with a check for $5,000 to get them through their immediate crisis until they can get insurance claims and whatnot. In addition, we take the children of the killed or critically injured public service, and once they reach college age, we put them through college. We only go as far as the highest tuition of New Jersey school. So to give you an idea, July 4th in 2002, I don't know how many people remember, there was a very bad fire in Gloucester City. There was 3 young children. When the fire department first arrived, you could see them looking out of the window. The house was ablaze. Several firefighters from Gloucester City as well as neighboring towns entered the home. The home came crashing down. I don't know if this rings a bell with anybody, but there was about 10 firefighters who were trapped inside, as well as the three children. The 3 children perished in the fire, and 3 firefighters also perished, one of them being the county fire marshal, one of them being a young firefighter who had just got engaged the night before, and one of them was a Mount Ephraim firefighter. That was 2002. Currently, we are putting through, I believe, 2 children of those deceased firefighters 20 years later, because the children were so young at the time of the incident. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that happens today and we put out money for the scholarship today. It could be 20, 10, 15 years, depending on the age of the children who die. So keep that in mind. It's just something that goes on for years and years. In addition, we also provide a college scholarship every year to, we do 5 different scholarships for police, fire, and EMS, as well as the Gary Klein Memorial Scholarship, and Corporal Melito, he was from the Delaware River Port Authority, and he was killed in the line of duty investigating an accident on the, I believe it was the Walt Whitman Bridge. So his family supports a scholarship. So we give out 5 scholarships ranging from $1,500 to $2,000 to children each year, high school kids. We also do an awards banquet once a year at Lucian's that always sells out 500 people, and we, under the nomination of superior officers from police, fire, and EMS, we present them with an award for their valor from what they did for the previous year. And that's very popular, and it draws a lot of people, not only the award recipients, but their family members, as well as the police chiefs, the fire chiefs, and certainly the political figures in the town. So I appreciate this check. It goes, everything we do is all fundraising. That's what we do throughout the year, and that's how we support ourselves. We try to get the private sector involved as much as possible, but unfortunately, most of the money raised is through police departments, fire departments, and your emergency medical services department. So an organization like this, I can't thank you enough it certainly helps and it certainly goes a long way. So thanks again.
Yeah. Wait, 1 minute. 1 minute, because we came here to hear Rabbi Address. Once again, I do appreciate your coming out last week. You helped make the event a great event. We did it mostly for the kids. We had 250 kids, but we knew that you would appreciate it, because quite frankly, you've lived a lot of that history. But what I want to talk about just for under a minute, COVID. Well, it's still here. Next week, in this room at 1 o'clock, perhaps you're aware the book festival starts next week. Not Tony Fauci, but in my opinion, the second greatest expert in COVID in this country will be speaking right here, Paul Offit. He's a professor of medicine, pediatrics at Children's Hospital, and he will update us all on what's happening with COVID. This event is free. I represent another organization, and we have for 25 years been bringing in a medical speaker, always free to the public. He's a wonderful guy. He's a great speaker. So if you can be here next week, we'd love to see you again right here, 1 o'clock. It is free.
What day?
Sunday. Sunday the 6th. Thank you very much. It'll be well worth your work. It's on the festival schedule, but it is the only major speaker that is free. Tell him I told you so.
Okay, so now we're going to have the main speaker of the day. So wake up. Dr. Rabbi Address is going to be, and he'll introduce himself. Thank you.
My name is Richard Address. I'm a rabbi hanging out here since 1978. I'm founder and director of Jewish Sacred Aging, the JewishSacredAging.com website. I happen to have conveniently located cards here in case you're interested in writing for it, getting them. It's the largest website and program dealing with Jewish aging and spirituality and the impact of longevity on our families. Some of you may be familiar with getting older, like me. We also host a weekly podcast called Seekers of Meaning that's available on the website, JewishSacredAging.com. So thank you for the invitation of being here. I'm going to try to do this real, because you guys leave about 11. There's the game's at 1 o'clock. You'll be home in plenty of time for kickoff. Jillian knows me too well. Here's what I'd like to do with you this morning. And when I teach, it's kind of like informal. Can I move around, or must I stay at a particular period of place? Okay, thank you. Part of our work in Jewish Sacred Aging, and I teach in a variety of seminaries and in congregations all across North America, and here as well in congregations that write for The Voice every once in a while. There has been an explosion in the last 15, 20 years as baby boomers, some of you are of my generation, most of you much younger than me, in ritual creation. The reason for that is because we are living longer and we're living better. If I was writing a prayer book, and there's absolutely no chance of that ever happening, one of the prayers that would be at the beginning of every prayer book would be a blessing for medical technology. Because many of the people, some people you know, and perhaps some of the people in this room are here because of the blessings of medical technology. And I mean that sincerely. Well, some of the work we do in my program deals with Judaism and medicine. But the explosion in rituals have had a lot to do with stuff that we've never experienced before. And what I want to do with you this morning, and if you have a question, please raise it, because we're going to be short of time and I want to be respectful of your time, is I want to walk you through some of these new rituals. Some of them are very, very interesting. Some of them are somewhat controversial. I've gotten into trouble with two of them. One about cohabitation without marriage, and one of them, which I'll save for last, is the redefinition of adultery. now that I have your attention. You don't sign up for this. What?
Would that include the how to?
If you have to ask at this stage of your life how to, see me later. We all do rituals, okay? And rituals are part of our daily life. For example, last night, I was telling Jillian this, at about 7:15, I put on my Philly sweatshirt, my lucky socks. I moved to the lucky seat in my house that they always won with, and of course they lost. Everybody has rituals. My other ritual is I get up in the morning, I have to have a cup of coffee before I look at the news. At least I'm buttressed against all the depression. Every one of us in this room have our own little rituals, routines, and when we do variations that were sort of like out of whack. Everything is ritual. The importance of ritual, we're going to spare a lot of this stuff, because this is really like a 2-hour workshop, which you're not going to get, don't worry. It's like when rabbis open the refrigerator door and the light goes on, sometimes we can do 20 minutes. It wasn't that funny. Happens to be true, though. That's never hello lettuce, hello celery. I'm reminded of a story. Every time your rabbi says, I'm reminded of a story, take your shoes off, relax. For a long one. Rituals are very, very important. Religious rituals are designed to take us to another level. We want to take certain moments that in essence are ordinary and make them sacred. For example, how many of you have been to a wedding lately? Jewish wedding. Okay, weddings, I tell every couple that I marry, what you're doing at 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, you're taking an ordinary moment in time, and by doing this ritual, you are elevating it to something sacred, something holy, which is of course why the Jewish phrase for marriage is kedushin, to make holy. So what I'm going to do is take you through some of this stuff very, very quickly. How many of you have an advance directive? Raise your hand. All right, yeah. Mike will take this so I don't lose. Okay, I need a volunteer. You, yes, sir, the adultery guy. You just did. Where did you sign your advance directive?
At the bottom of the page.
He's here every night, 8 o'clock. I got 2 words for you. It's not fire truck either. I'll rephrase. Are you a lawyer?
No.
Did you sign your advance directive in an office?
No.
Where did you sign?
Our son's home.
Oh, okay. Most people sign it like me at a lawyer's office. You know, you sign all the papers and everything. Thank you very much. You get the bill. It occurred to me after I signed mine for the first time, and I revised it just recently, because you have to revise your advance directive every 5 to 7 years because the technology changes and you change. What you may have wanted 10 years ago may not, you may have changed your mind. So it's important to change it. And life changes. So it occurred to me after I signed my advance directive, and I went to the local Dunkin' Donuts to have my sacred cup of coffee, that I literally acknowledged the fact that I'm going to die. And that was a pretty sobering moment. And I was teaching a class at our seminary on longevity, the impact of longevity on our congregations. And I said to my class, you know something? We do not have a blessing for the saying when you sign an advance directive. Now, believe it or not, and I spend most of my time in congregation land, there's no congregation who has done this. The reason why I don't understand. Take a 3x5 car, put this little blessing on it, make it available to every member of the congregation
and say, when you sign your advance directive, just take 30 seconds and say this bracha. Listen to the language. I want your opinion. The language is very important. Blessed is the Eternal who has granted us life, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this season. It's the Shechariana. Listen. God who has given me the power of choice and who has brought me the strength to make these decisions today. Thank you for granting me the wisdom to think ahead and to understand the great range of possibilities that could come in the future. When the time comes that I am no longer able to make my decisions on my own behalf, may my wishes be carried out by those who are close to me. While so much is out of our control, we are grateful that we can make choices in our life, make them known, and have them acted out in the event that we no longer have the ability to do so ourselves. I have been blessed with so much, and may my family be at peace with my decisions. May we love one another and cherish our time together. Baruch atah Adonai, who has given us free will and agency in our lives. Amen. Any reaction? Anybody?
Where can we get a copy of that?
I'll send it to you. I mean, we published this this is the study guide I use when we do this in a congregation, but we don't have the time to go through the whole thing.
Yeah, your blessing is longer than the advance directive.
You have a very, never mind. Morale, what do you want? He's an attorney, yeah, it figures. Okay. No. I just pointed out to you because here's an example of what I wanted to bring to you today. This is an example of a contemporary Judaism saying, here's something that it didn't exist, obviously, even when I was a kid. It is the responsibility of the contemporary Jewish community to say, here are new issues, new life stages that we're going through. Should we not have an appropriate response, ritually or blessing, or bracha-wise, to meet these new stages? My opinion is absolutely. I worked for the URJ, the Union for the Reformed Judaism, for about 30-some years, first as a regional rabbi and then as the director of a department called Jewish Family Concerns. And we started to develop a lot of this stuff during my tenure as the department director. We just took this privately in Jewish Sacred Aging. So that's one example of what I wanted to show you. How many of you occasionally go to synagogue on a Friday night or Shabbos morning? Raise your hand. Don't be afraid, nothing will happen. Okay. As you know, what? As you know, the Misha Berach prayer is a prayer for healing. It's a very, very traditional blessing. So there have been Misha Berach prayers that have been developed, especially since COVID. We don't have the time to go through them. I have a whole stack of them in that file. But one of the things I wanted to share with you, there is an epidemic right now, as some of you may know, of mental health issues. It is a real epidemic in our community, across the generational lines, from kids to older adults. The traditional Misha Berach is a Misha Berach that talks about healing of the body and healing of the soul. So one of my colleagues, we published this in another book for congregations, has this Misha Berach for people and families dealing with mental health issues. Some of you, given the numbers of people in this room, I guarantee you that some of you and your family have dealt with or are dealing with these issues. Now think about this, on a Friday night, on a Shabbos, at a synagogue who may do a whole program around Judaism and mental health. And the Talmud is rich in these texts and traditions, another workshop that we do, not for today. But think about this blessing. Listen to the words. This is a Misha Berach for individuals and families dealing with mental illness. May God, who blessed our fathers and mothers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, grant blessed healing to all those members of our congregation and members of our families who struggle with mental illness. May God be with them in their illness and give them patience, hope, and courage. May God so endow their attending physicians and therapists with insight and skill that they may be soon restored to health and vigor of body and mind. May God be with their families, too, and grant them patience, hope, and courage. May God remove their anger and wipe away feelings of guilt. May God endow them with a full life and with love, that they too enjoy health and vigor of body and mind. May God bind up their wounds, that they may enjoy many a simcha and thank God for the blessings of health, as we say, Amen. Any reaction? I mean, think about this if a Friday night or Shabbos morning, because there will be people sitting in that congregation who are dealing with these issues. And again, do we not have a responsibility as a Jewish community in the 21st century to talk about these issues that our people are living and going through every single day? Lenny.
What has been the response of local clergy to instituting something like that into their service?
Some congregations have actually developed huge programs around mental health and mental illness. And some of them incorporate this. When I used to go out before the pandemic in congregation, man, we would spend a lot of time on this. Now it's all on Zoom. But it's still a stigma. It's easy. It's not easy to go into a congregation and develop a program around depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, suicidology, self-destructive behaviors with children. It's very, very challenging. Most of our religious schools, which are glorified babysitting services, don't deal with this because the pressures on young people right now are overwhelming. And I think we have a responsibility to deal with it. Okay, I know this, well, some of you may have experience with this. Sometimes, somebody will knock on the door of the rabbi's office and say, Rabbi Address, I would like to come and talk to you. What are you doing 3 Sunday afternoons from now at 2 o'clock? I said, well, I don't know. What do you have in mind? I said, well, as you know, I've been divorced for several years. I've been alone. Last year, my kids gave me a gift. They gave me a cruise. I went on the cruise. I met this lovely lady. She lives in Voorhees. And I live I have an apartment at Lionsgate, and she lives alone. And we met each other, and we became friends, and she's a widow. And we've decided to move in together. Great, wonderful. So we would like you to come to the community room over at Lionsgate on 2 Sunday afternoons from now at 2 o'clock and give us a blessing. A blessing because we're going to be living together. We're not, and the rabbi, of course, jumps up and down and says, thank you, it's wonderful, I'll be happy to do the wedding. Legal use of ritual, penalty 15 brachas. Rabbi, I didn't say anything about the wedding. Are you crazy? He said, we're not going to get married. She has a stage, she has grown children, I have the same thing. Look, we found each other. We don't want to be alone. All we're asking you to do is just come and say, in essence, thank you, God, you found each other. You should live and be well. Now, I know that this doesn't happen a lot. So we actually started to talk about this in some workshops many years ago, and lo and behold, people sent me 2 rituals, a couple of rituals, that have been actually done. The one I'm going to read you was done in an assisted living facility in Texas by the chaplain of the assisted living facility. I've had colleagues who will not do this. The first time I trotted this out, they said, because we could be guilty of false representation. We do a wedding, but it's not a wedding. I said, no, it's not a wedding. It's clearly not a wedding. And part of your premarital counseling for second marriages or third or couples should make it clear that it's not a wedding. So you can think about this. I mean, this is just part of the ceremony. We don't have the time to go to the whole thing. Get your reactions, okay? Morty and Shirley are at Lionsgate in the community room, and Rabbi Berman comes at 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. Congratulations. He was just bar mitzvah again, so why not? And they stand there with their friends around them, perhaps their friends, their adult children, their grandchildren, and part of it goes like this. Today we celebrate the loving commitment of so-and-so and so-and-so to each other, and we share in their joy. In the Song of Songs we read, Ani l'dodi v'dodi li, I am my beloved's and my beloved's is mine. This represents not only God's relationship with Israel, but also the commitment that is shared by these two people. Listen, love lives as long as the human heart beats, as long as we draw breath. The soul reaches out to another, recognizing a kindred spirit, a receptive companion to share life's vicissitudes. Age is meaningless, for the mysteries of the heart know no temporal boundaries. Today we acknowledge their love for each other and bless their commitment. May they be healthy and lead productive lives. May they find sustenance in their relationship. May they find enjoyment in each other. May their physical presence strengthen their spiritual growth. May they nurture their fragility and rely on their strengths. May their days be full and inundated with love. Amen. Anybody offended by that? Anybody think that this, any reaction? I mean, yeah.
You're a rabbi.
What?
I agree with this.
I agree with this? Oh, I published this. Yeah, but yes, I agree with it. Minute. I think the majority.
The majority.
I can't speak for the, I think I've had 2 reactions to 2 rituals that we printed. I'll be there in a minute.
But don't you see what's happening? This defeats the idea of rabbis following the religious Hebrew laws.
In what way?
It's allowing people to live together without getting married.
Yeah, but rumor has it that that's already happening.
But you're condoning it now. You're actually condoning it now. This is strictly my opinion. I think this is great. I think it's wonderful. But the problem is this goes against what Judaism stands for, and it goes against what the rabbis have been taught and teach for years and years, and this is no damn good.
Aha! This is why I love doing this, because it's so much fun. No, but real fast, because
We were in Israel, and I have religious relatives. They're Orthodox, they're Reformed. They're Reformed, and the religious relatives don't get together. They don't get together, and they disagree with everything they're doing.
I'm aware of it.
And the Orthodox one told me this. I can't believe this. This is very Orthodox. It's okay to have love with a shiksa. I said, where do you come up with that? It's okay. What do you mean it's okay? It's stupid. I said, you're so religious, and you agree with all the religious stuff that you're taught, yet you think it's okay. I thought that I was an idiot.
No, it's actually, we don't have the time to do this, but if you ever want to do a program on the whole Jewish approach to sexuality and sex and stuff, it's in there, from the tradition.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Why would I make this up? No, I know. Bert, the answer to your question is yes. I gotta go.
I was just going to say that your speech sounds like more fun than being married.
No way I touched that one. Yes, sir, Mr. Phillies.
Very good shot.
And that's made that the common law marriage is accepted by people who will navigate over a period of time. I don't think it's legal in New Jersey, but does having an official commemoration or ceremony such as this in any way affect a common law marriage?
You have to check with. He says no. The answer here is no. And you're right. It varies from state to state. Look, but yeah, we're not going to get to the other stuff.
You using this prayer for older people doing it.
Yes.
My guess is that half the people in this room have grandchildren
Yes.
who are doing the exact same thing.
What's your name?
Al. The question is, would you do the same blessing for my 30-year-old grandson and his girlfriend?
Al, you're so great. The answer to your question is no. Now, why? And Bernie, listen to this. I'll get you in a minute. Let me answer this. Don't go away. Let me just answer this, okay? Okay. So, the first time I tried this, right after we printed this, and we were asked not to print it, you got to get it. I work for the URJ. It's all in here. We were asked not to print this, which of course means I was going to print it. And the answer is the following. Well, too much coffee. When we first did this in a congregation in Evanston, Illinois, and we presented this, a man at the back end of the chapel where we did this stood up and gave me the layman's finger. That's the layperson's finger. This. And stood up and said, Rabbi Address, you can't do that. I said, why not? We have people who are older adults who are doing this and are just asking for a blessing, in essence to say, thank God I found somebody. It's lonely. He said, what's to prevent my son, who's a graduate student down the street at Northwestern, from walking into the rabbi's office and saying, I went to Pops, what you did for my grandfather. Here's my girlfriend, Rebecca. We're living together for a year and a half, and we're deeply, deeply, deeply in like. In like. So with this generative conversation, is there a difference between your 30-year-old son, grandson, you never know, and somebody who's my age is 77? The answer to my question is absolutely. I believe, Richard Address, my theology, and my understanding of Judaism is we are a contextual religious civilization. So when you study the halacha, you'll see that halacha, even its most, in many ways, traditional forms, is also contextual and deals with things. If you do the medical ethics workshop, we talk about this, on a context, on a case-by-case basis. So the 30-year-old grandson and his girlfriend, I would say, is a different context universally to the 77-year-old person in a different stage of life. So that's the answer. No, checking the score. Yes?
Process of interviewing these people, which I'm assuming you probably would, found out that one or both of the person had done something not so nice, like maybe the man not giving his previous wife a cat. Would you still do it?
That's a great question. And every colleague, by the way, doesn't have to necessarily be with this situation. We have had colleagues, and there are colleagues who do, in their premarital and their conversations, do make a decision saying, I cannot do this until you finish doing it. You conform to the Jewish way of life. In other words, exactly what you're saying. I have colleagues who will say, yes, it's my responsibility. I can't change what you didn't do. I have other colleagues, the majority of them would say, until you complete what you're obligated to do, halachically, Jewish ethics-wise, I can't be part of this. Depends on the context. Oh, under the probably not. Probably not. And that's why the context is so, and by the way, we put this on the website because I have somebody who has written about this for me. One of the things that is so woeful, and some of you may have walked this walk. I have somebody who, we posted this on JewishSacredAging.com, a whole manual for colleagues doing premarital counseling for second and third marriages. Because the questions that I have to ask somebody my age are very, very different, just like you mentioned, to somebody who is 30 years old and getting married for the first time. Because those are some of the questions like, do you have a prenup? I mean, I did a wedding about 1.5 years ago for a second marriage. And we got to the question, I had raised the question about, do you have one, or are you contemplating a prenuptial agreement? And the husband said, yes. And the woman he was about to marry said, wait a minute, we never talked about this. No, I'm being very serious. You may not ask that for a 28-year-old, 30-year-old getting married for the first time. So these are different types of questions, just like you're talking about. This is why I'm raising this. This is all emerging. This is all emerging. This is why, to me, it's very, very exciting. Okay? Oh, wait, Lenny, I gotta hurry up because we only have 15 minutes. I haven't gotten to the really juicy stuff. No.
I have a question.
Real fast.
Children. As Jews, we are obligated to bring the children as Jewish. When we're old and we're not going to have children, it's a very different kind of situation.
Correct. That's part of it. Look, there's a whole... One of the other things that I urge you to think about for a future program is there's an organization called, again, this is part of our work, but we don't have the time to go into it now. The Jewish Grandparents Network. It's based in Baltimore. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. They have a website, jewishgrandparentsnetwork.org. But they actually get, how many of you are grandfathers? Okay, cool. They're great. They're great. I mean, my kids who live around the corner, down the street, in an independent poll, and I got a water over there, in an independent poll that was taken a couple of years ago, were voted the world's greatest grandchildren. It was a small poll, but I believe it. But one of the things that, again, because it goes into what's this gentleman's name? He's checking his phone. What's your name? Al. Raised as part of the conversation in second and third marriages has to do with adult children, grandchildren, because not everybody's in favor of grandmama or pop and mom getting married again. There's all kinds of family dynamics involved there. Some of you may have been involved with some of these things. But if you really want to have an interesting program, part of the Jewish grandparents, they did a survey of thousands of Jewish grandparents right before, as the pandemic was going in 2019, 2020. 53% of us, 53%, over the majority of Jewish grandparents, are dealing with grandchildren being raised in an interfaith household. Almost no synagogue has had the guts to program around this, yet those people are sitting in that membership. It's a fascinating thing. This goes to the part of what we're talking about. Okay. Here are a couple more things. How many of you know what a simchat chochmah is? Anybody have ever heard of the word simchat chochmah? Okay. You know the word. What's a simcha?
Joyous occasion.
Jewish occasion. What's chochmah? Those of you know Yiddish. Chochmah. Wisdom. So this is a ceremony called the Simchat Chochmah, a celebration of wisdom. The one we published was given to us by a young woman from Canada who did this on a Friday night in her synagogue. Almost no synagogues in the United States of America and Canada do this on a regular basis. Why? I do not know. It's a celebration of wisdom. So for those, it usually involves somebody coming to the Bema on a Friday night as they're celebrating a significant birthday. Let's just say 70, 80, 90. This woman did this when I think she turned 70. She got on the Bema on a Friday night, opened the ark, read this prayer that she worked out with her rabbi, celebrating the fact that she has lived this long in health. Now can picture this. The ark is opening, the congregation is standing, this woman or man comes and says the following, part of this blessing. Listen to the language. River of light and truth, you have sustained me these many years and brought me to the place in my life's journey. Let me look out with wisdom from the high ground of my years and experience over the terrain of my life. Let me gaze out towards the past and the future with a heightened sense of your presence as my God. Let me see that growth, listen to this, let me see that growth is not reserved for any one season, and that love and fulfillment are not the exclusive provinces of the young. As today I celebrate my life's continuing unfolding, I am awestruck by the wonder of my being. And so I pray that kindness and compassion may be on my lips, that strength and courage may be with me in my comings and my goings, and that I may learn, continue to learn from and to teach those dear to me. God, my Creator, as you are the first and the last, may my life ever be a song of praise to you. Amen. I think that's pretty cool. Why the organized Jewish community in synagogues doesn't, first of all, it's a membership retention technique, to be honest with you, because the majority of our generation are leaving synagogues. It just celebrates the fact that as long, which is embedded in the Jewish tradition, as long as we are alive, as long as we draw breath, we continue to grow, we continue to learn, we continue to love. It's really a very, very beautiful sentiment, I think. Anyway. Two more things real fast. Let me finish it. I got to finish. You all right?
I'm not leaving.
No. It's beginning to look like Rosh Hashanah. Tea time, Rabbi. Hurry up. What?
Sermon's almost over.
Yeah. Don't start.
What page are we on?
That's also, anyway. Many years ago when I was sitting in the office in New York, I got a call from a colleague saying, Richie, someone just left the office, asked me to do a favor for him. I did this person's wedding 30 years ago. Tragically, his wife passed away. We did the funeral off the Bema here a year ago. The year of mourning is over. He just asked me to come next Sunday afternoon to the synagogue after religious school to go on the Bema. He wants a blessing so that he can remove his wedding ring. What do you got? I said, I ain't got nothing. I've never heard of this. But if you do this, could you send it to me? This really started our whole investigation about new rituals. About a month later, a letter arrived. For those of you who remember letters, there's a thing called a stamp on it. It's an antique. Picture this. Sunday afternoon. The synagogue is quiet. This man walks on the Bema with some friends, I think. The rabbi, they open the ark, and he reads the following blessing. This is not, and this parenthetically, this is not for everybody, okay? There's a whole psychodynamic involved with this. This precious ring you slipped on my finger as we stood under our hook. I took to my heart as a continuous circle of love. It remained a symbol of our unity as we held our babies, celebrated our milestones, and soothed our hurts. A witness to all of our married days, it was once new and shining. With the passing of years, the color deepened and warmed, as did the exquisiteness of our life together. Now I am without you, and I must move towards another way of living. I must begin a new life. As I remove this circle of love, I know it is not easy to let go and surrender into memory what once was and can no longer be. As I heal and go forward, I will always be strengthened by a life we cherished and that part of my heart that is forever yours. Amen. Anybody? Again, this is not for everybody. But keep in mind, this gentleman, who I happen to know, needed his congregational community. He was very active in the synagogue, you should know that. To basically say, it's okay to move on. It's okay. And again, it's not for everybody, but I wanted to bring this to your attention because this is something, again, that, believe me, when I was studying this at the seminary many years ago, this was never even conceived of, that a lot of these things would, and there's lots more. Yeah, real fast, Len.
This puts me in mind of another issue, this moving on. I have a member of my family who's in his 60s. His wife has just acquired Alzheimer's. She does not know him.
Right.
She doesn't know anybody anymore. He's met a woman.
I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that. No, I'm going to get to it. Just hold it. Just hold it. Hold it. Hold it. Hold it.
I'm holding it.
Hold it. Very good. Don't burst. What? He's going to be hurry up. Okay. I just have to breathe because it's important and it comes in handy every once in a while.
It's all about the most
important thing you're ever going to do.
This following thing is from a collection of prayers that Reformed rabbis published. We included it in our workshop because it happens to deal with the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia, which is epidemic. The Alzheimer's Association tells us that in the United States of America, there's approximately 6 million people dealing with this disease. As baby boomers age out in the next 20 years, it's expected to grow to something like 15 to 16 million. And there are not enough professionals to take care of us. We have lots more to talk about. We talk about the whole caregiving. It's the most requested workshop that we do in Jewish Sacred Aging. This whole issue of caregiving and intergenerational caregiving. If you do not have a family care plan, please set one up. This is a meditation called Facing Dementia. This is, just listen to the language, it's brutal. It's not for everybody, it is very difficult. And it basically is written for an individual who faces the diagnosis of dementia. My God, I am about to enter a wilderness. All that I have thought is me. My voice, my thinking, my memories will slip away, and I may not even comprehend it. As I enter this wilderness, my step quivers and my soul hurts. In this leap of faith, I will come to rely on so many, and we will all rely upon you. Whom will I recognize? Who will recognize me? Even though my mind will change, please do not let the knitting of my soul unravel. Only you will know me, even if I do not know myself. Please help me to remember that others before me have found you in the wilderness. I am not sure I will know to look for you, but please look for me. Amen. This is a very tough meditation. But it also speaks to the reality. I face this with my mom. My mom crashed at age 93 with dementia. Wound up in a skilled nursing home across the street from the old McCourt Shalom building. It was brutal. Show of hand. And I don't want to embarrass anybody, but if you, how many of you have dealt with this in your family? Wow. Wow. Listen, do me a favor if you want to, and this is purely, I have to talk to the National Association of Jewish Chaplains next Monday on this. If you go to my website, jewishsacredagenda.com, and I'll leave you some cards. If any of you have any advice that you would like to share with the Jewish Chaplains Association of North America, please email me. I really mean that sincerely. This is a devastating, devastating journey to go on. And it really is a multi-generational impact. So, but again, here's a blessing. Now, there's a bunch of other stuff. Stay away from the banner. Banner hates it. It's like technology. Here we go. Next to the last one. Can I go 5 minutes over?
Of course.
Darby's saying, of course. These people may have a date. They may have, they got to pick up the Hoagies for the kickoff. Please.
May I interrupt? Stop worrying about the time.
No,
We'll get an extra hour next week.
Is that one that changes?
Yeah.
Oh, in that case. Thank you.
It's finishing before 1.
Okay, shh. Okay. One of the things that is constant that a lot of us as colleagues have dealt with, and this is another part of this explosion of people wanting to have something meaningful, ritual-wise or prayer-wise. So every Kabbalah I know has had the conversation with a member of a congregation who, after a funeral or before a funeral or at the time to say Kaddish, will come and say, you know, this parent of mine was abusive, did not follow Jewish tradition, was angry, mean, physically and emotionally abusive to mother, wife, whatever. And yet I know from the 5th commandment that I'm supposed to honor and respect. How can I say Kaddish? How can I say Kaddish in good conscience, even though the 5th commandment commands me? This is a Kaddish, okay? Written by a woman whose father was abusive and struggled with this with her rabbi and wrote this and published it. Some of you may have experience with something like this. Listen to this. Dear God, you know my heart. Indeed, you know me better than I know myself. So I turn to you before I rise for Kaddish. My emotions swirl as I say this prayer. The parent I remember was not kind to me. His or her death left me with a legacy of unhealed wounds, of anger, and of dismay that a parent could hurt a child as I was hurt. I do not want to pretend to love or to grief that I do not feel, but I do want to do what is right as a Jew and as a child. Help me, O God, to subdue my bitter emotions that do me no good, and to find that place in myself where happier memories may lie hidden, and where grief for all that could have been, all that should have been, may be calmed by forgiveness, or at least soothed by the passage of time. I pray that you, who raise up slaves to freedom, will liberate me from the oppression of my hurt and anger, and that you will lead me from this desert to your holy place. Amen. This is not fiction, by the way. given the number of people here, some of you may know individuals who struggle with this whole thing. And here's another attempt to speak to a situation that we are living. Last one. This is the most controversial that has gotten in the most trouble. We published blessings. We did this whole book called Kulanu, which is the whole history of LGBTQ in the Reform movement. We published a blessing for people who are transitioning, transitioning from man to woman, woman to man, which also got us in a little trouble. But again, there's a significant number of our people who are doing this. This is also not a fictitious scenario. Given the number of men in this room, I will bet you my Philly tickets is now worth something, at least for another week, that some of you know someone who is dealing with this issue. That sometime today or next or this week, a call will go to their rabbi, if they are a member of a congregation, and say to them, I need to make an appointment to come and talk to you, because I'm really being whacked with some guilt and I need some advice. Because you see, Rabbi Address, as you know, I'm going to use woman and gender, so don't be offended. My wife has Alzheimer's. She's in that memory care unit virtually. She's been there for 2 years. I visit her. She barely knows who I am. When our kids come in from Pittsburgh and Boston, they visit. She really doesn't know who they are anymore. I love her very much. I see her all the time. I care for her. But I'm also very alone. And last year when I went on this talk tour, I met this lovely young woman. She lives in Lordstown. And, we struck up a friendship. We exchanged emails. And lo and behold, we met for dinner. And to tell you the truth, we become intimate. And I'm racked with some guilt. I'm a healthy 75-year-old man. I still go to business 2 days a week. She's a widow. I don't know what I'm doing. I know that I don't want to be alone. I love my wife. I remember the vows we took as we stood under the chuppah. But I'm terribly alone. And I want to know, Rabbi, am I doing something wrong? Am I committing adultery? I can't talk about this with my children. They wouldn't understand. I'm not comfortable even raising it with our circle of friends who we've traveled with and gone out to dinner with and socialized with these last 35 years. I don't know if they would understand. Now, I would submit to you that this is not fiction. In fact, I will tell you point blank that I've been having this conversation with congregations for many years, at least a dozen years. I've yet to have it in a congregation where somebody doesn't come up, either the rabbi or somebody from the audience, and say, yes, this is me, or this is my friend, or a rabbi saying, yeah, this was just in my office last week. So my question, when we started to talk about this, is do we as a religious community have a responsibility to A, talk about this? And I think we do. And two, in discussing it, do we have a responsibility to even create some sort of document, some sort of ritual that would, in a context, give permission? Now, in researching an article for our professional journal, the CCAR journal, about a dozen years ago, on older adults' sexuality, I actually found a document that was created by a therapist in California called An Open Letter to My Spouse. It was said that the document was to be signed by the husband and the wife, which basically said, if I am in a situation where I am no longer technically alive, that's a direct quote, and you find yourself in the need of, listen to the language, emotional, spiritual, or physical attraction, I hereby give you permission. Because I know you will love me, I will love you. Signed and signed. Witnessed. So the first question is, when, assuming you created this, when would you sign it? The first time I ever did this, somebody said, well, obviously, you sign it when the couple signs the ketubah. And I said, I don't think a 30-year-old young person would have even any concept of what this means. The next person said, well, why not include this when somebody signs the advance directive? Because this is a time when they're actually beginning to talk about this. Is there some basis in Judaism for this? Believe it or not, there is. We don't have the time to go into the whole concept of a concubine, but there is a Jewish halachic concept called the agunah. Anybody know what the agunah is? Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's a woman who has, the husband is left, but she hasn't gotten it yet.
Usually associated with wartime. The husband is lost at sea or in war. They have not found the body. She is literally chained. She cannot move on with her life. So the question is raised in some commentaries, and I have actually a document that was written by a colleague with this type of ritual to update. This is part of the ongoing evolution of Jewish terms, to update the concept of the agunah to exactly this situation, and to say, is that spouse in the end stage in the memory care unit down the street in Virtual, could we consider them in the 21st century, given what we know, as a type of agunah, or do we actually have to create a different legal Jewish halachic term, which literally I think it's another conversation we have to do for a lot of things, especially end-of-life stuff where people are technically being kept alive. And if you do a session on end-of-life care, you'll know that there's Jewish legal halachic boundaries which change the way one can treat someone. So I ask you, this is not fiction. What do you think if you wind up opening up the Voice one day, or going to your synagogue and seeing that available is this document based upon a reinterpretation of traditional Jewish values? It is not for everybody. Because I've had people say, Address, it's adultery. They took a vow under the chuppah. That's it. And other people say, as one person did in one workshop, he stood up and said, until you walk this walk, do not make a judgment. So I raise this with you. We're not going to answer it, but I'm fascinated by your reaction. Anybody want to give a brief, what's your initial neshama from your gut? What's your reaction to this? Anybody? Yes.
I know some people who would be offended by it because they would say, "Oh, you intend to be unfaithful to me."
And that's people have raised that objection. They say it opens the door. So shut still. This is too private. Shut up. Don't even talk. Yes.
I don't want to judge anyone, and I don't want anyone to judge me. Meaning that I'm responsible for myself, my life, my thoughts, my actions, not someone else. I want to reflect on that.
This is part of, This is why I wanted to raise these issues with you. Because if you remember nothing else from this morning, I want you to take away the fact that Judaism is constantly evolving. That even in these issues, across the denominational lines, Reform, Orthodox, Conservative, Humanistic, Renewal, whatever, we are constantly evolving as a religious civilization. And so while some of these issues may not have been in the Talmud, although many of them are, especially the caregiving and the mental health stuff, our community is grappling with this. And I wanted you to be aware of this. It isn't for everybody. It isn't for everybody. Whether you remove that wedding ring, you draw up a document just in case. But this is a fascinating thing. It is part of the dynamism and the growth and the excitement of being Jewish. And in the 21st century, so you should know that we never stop evolving, growing, learning, and opening the door to something else. I'm going to leave you these cards. I'm very serious about this. If you have something that you would like to have raised with the chaplains next week, I'm going to leave it here by the coffee, which people react to. The sacred coffee. Gentlemen, lady, Jillian, you take care. Stay safe, get vaccinated, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. And a year membership in a club. So feel free to come here.
Thank you very much. Pose. Good.
By the way, how many people actually? Okay, thank you very much. You've been very patient. 50-50. Okay, 50-50. No.
The winning ticket on 50-50 is 185, excuse me, 704. 185, 704.
Okay, investment club meeting after this. Thank you very much for your patience and see you next month.